Sublime magnificence. Hey guys, you know who it is, what's going on, when it's happening, where it's at, and why we're here today. How you doing? It is I, the sublimely magnificent big ugly himself, Omari Ellis Feo Grande on YouTube, back with another episode of This Guy Hasn't Seen the podcast, where we trade things back and forth. And as usual, I am here with my co-host and running mate, one of my best friends in the world, El Director himself, Bill Smith.
Hey Omari, thank you again for having me. As always, I love being here. I love being on this show. I love participating. You know what I don't love, sir, is I don't love my name being brought up on another show when that show won't allow me to retort.
I mean, it's kind of
Listen
a two-way
here,
street.
Super Jazz. You gonna bring me up on your show? You scared to have me on your show to retort? I saw Omari even brought it up. He was like, "Well, we'll have Bill on someday." And then everybody go back, look at that moment. I don't have it time stamped. You can see it in his eyes. You can see the fear in his eyes.
He's been on the show 3 times.
Super Jazz, I challenge you to have me on Whatever We Want podcast so we can talk about this face to face. Bullshit ass opinion. The man sits there and talks like he's developed this genius idea about our show, about how I'm it seems like Bill, I'm watching this and it seems like Bill really only digs the old school wrestling, and I see his heart light up when he's talking about these old school wrestlings, and it seems like he's just not a guy whose brain is with the times of modern wrestling. That was the entire concept of the episode of the show. Is that I only watch the old school stuff. Everything that you dismiss me for, I said out of my own mouth on tape.
True.
I said that my judgment was clouded because I watched all of this as I was a child.
And I'm pretty sure I did say that. You're right.
I'm
pretty sure he said that. That he only watched.
And I also highlighted several good things about that match and the performers of that match.
Which I think
no one can watch that match and say that it is not rehearsed to fuck. That is a valid criticism of that match.
I agreed. I believe.
And I would be able to say, and I would be able to say this if someone wasn't afraid to have me on. Get those comments.
Bob the Tomato watches both shows.
It's all
Maybe
a joke.
He'll get in the comments. Well, yeah. I'm assuming. I'm laughing the whole time. I'm like, you've been on the show 3 times. What do you mean we're scared to have you?
He's scared now, though. He won't have me back. Ask him about it. Look at the library. Where's Bill been? Nobody knows. Because Jazz is scared to have me back.
So yes, good to have you here. Well, we're not talking about.
Wait, this is just the intro to the show.
Well, today we're not talking about the wrestling matches or the party. We're talking about the Cardinals documentary for the World Series in 2011, I believe.
Yes, the official 2011 World Series film. They believed it. They wanted it. They overcame a 2.5 game deficit in late August and claimed a playoff berth on the final day of the regular season. This is a documentary film about the 2011 St. Louis Cardinals. It is directed by Matthew Atherton. It is written by Jeff Scott, and it is narrated by John Hamm, and it is, of course, starring the ensemble that makes up the St. Louis Cardinals. I chose this film because, as always, I'm looking to broaden our boundaries. And although this is a technically a documentary, it's a little bit of a weird offshoot, I'll admit. But I thought it would be fun. I thought it was funny, honestly, that this technically existed as an option that I could have you watch. And as many a viewer or as a viewer could see on many of our episodes, if not, well, I know it's not all of them, but boy, is it a lot of them. You're going to see this right here. Some form of a St. Louis Cardinals logo on my hat. And that is because I love this city and I rep this city. And it is because I love the St. Louis Cardinals and I love baseball. This sport and this team is very important to me because of a weird, intangible desire to love it and follow it. And there's no real explanation other than that. There's a lot of contributing factors of my entire family being a kind of a baseball family. You'll find that a lot here in like a big baseball city like St. Louis, or like what I would imagine Boston or Chicago to be like. You're going to find a baseball family where it's just that's one of the core aspects of the personality of the family.
They like baseball.
Yeah, once baseball season starts,
too, so yeah,
we're watching. Yeah. And so that's definitely an aspect of it. It is as an adult man in his 30s, I get oddly emotional about things. And one of my weird key triggers is it's so hard to explain the energy, the power of thousands of people doing something at once, all being in the moment of one thing together, is frequently so powerful to me. And that is granted to me tenfold, 100 different times over the course of a baseball season. A collective 2 outs, 2 strikes, bottom of the 9th, silent wait for a pitch. The roar and cheer of a home run in a crucial moment. There's something so powerful about it to me that I get choked up. And so it's a weird love, but it is absolutely a love. And so it's a really cool thing that I'm able to put this love into one of my new loves, this show. So that's why I picked this film, which is a documentary about the World Series team. It's something that Major League Baseball produces every single year for the World Series winner. There's usually a narrator, is a famous person from that town or with some sort of team connection. Just like NFL films.
Yeah.
Does NFL films is probably the more popular version of things, but MLB has their own. And so Omari, I know you hadn't seen it, and I mean I kind of know why you hadn't seen it already. We all know it's like a really weird niche thing, but like your relationship to baseball, we all know as viewers of you that you absolutely have a big stock in the entertainment value of sports.
Yes, I do. And baseball, I also grew up in St. Louis, and I also, Cardinals hat of my own. that I got on, and where, much like yourself, I do love the city. I do like the team as well. Don't get me wrong. It's kind of hard not to, being from St. Louis. However, baseball as a whole, while I've been to way more baseball games than I have, professional baseball games than I have the other sports, but that's because St. Louis used to do things like, hey, you're on the honor roll. Congrats, here's free Cardinals tickets. All right. Get to go to a Cardinals game just for getting my answers right on my test today. But growing up when the time when Ozzie Smith was a thing, I will say baseball was the first sport that I knew anything about its professional aspect. And that's because, again, St. Louis had the Cardinals and they had the Ozzie Smith years. And so there was the whole, representation. So, you got the black guy with the Ozzie Smith watching, and he was really, really good. And then, you go from that to Mark McGwire and, and the whole him versus Sammy Sosa saga. But as sports as a whole, the appreciation for sports as a form of entertainment, as you put it, that came in as I got older. When I was younger, sports was entertaining and casual, but it was the most casual of things ever. Who's in the World Series? Well, what's the playoffs? I didn't know. It wasn't until
there's a thing that was on in the background of family gatherings,
pretty much,
and that kind of thing.
And occasionally a Cardinals game, it'd be like the ninth inning or some random inning. But I had never really sat and watched the whole one on TV. It wasn't until I started watching football and around the age of turf that I started paying attention to, sports are broken up into regular series, playoffs, finals. Yes, I knew the Bulls had won 6 championships, but I didn't know those were best of 7 series, for instance. And, football became my main gateway and is still the main thing with all the XFL shit I've been talking about the past few weeks. But baseball's regular season, when I was like, okay, football, I like the regular season of football and into playoffs and that. How many games is that? 16. Okay, yeah, that's not bad. How many games are baseball?
One a week.
Yeah, one a week.
Often your off day.
Yeah. How many games are in baseball? 162. That's a lot of games.
Sometimes they're at noon, sometimes they're at 3, sometimes they're at 7. Just recently in real time, the St. Louis Cardinals finished a West Coast trip where I believe 8 of their 12 games started after 8 o'clock at night Central Time. Many of them started at 9 o'clock at night Central Time. For a 2.5-hour game, that's not something that a Missouri fan is going to watch every game necessarily.
Yeah, and that was the thing. And as I started to put stuff together about like the value of one game versus another, I was like, I can't sit an entire summer trying and catch every game when it's hard for me to watch. Baseball, you're right. The intense moments, and that's universal in sports. The intense moments are the intense moments. It's part of why I advocate for them now. That same stuff you're talking about. You're waiting for that last play. Someone's career is on the line because in those things, it's all about your reputation. That is what you're putting on the line when you step on that field. I'm a winner. He's a loser. That's, at the end of the day, you can say, there's blah, 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 but that's there. And your careers and careers in championship games or even sometimes regular series games are based off of the outcomes. Are you a bear poker that doesn't put much on the scoreboard, but you contribute to agitating the enemy team and you give your team wins that way because you take their big player out of it? Or are you a bear poker who ends up getting eaten by the bear so fiercely your team doesn't allow you back? Damn, winning and losing. Draymond can punch a person, step a person, and kick him in the nuts because he's on a 4-time championship team. Dylan Brooks calls LeBron old and loses. His ass is off the team. That's and all of that can be based off of like one shot, one whole hit of the home runs. That is universal in sports. So when you get to those moments where one city can be cursed to not win a championship for 60 years or 80 years or 108 years, and they're just waiting for it to finally get that reputation as the bottom of the barrel gone, can we please hit this home run? It's gonna be. Or is it another century and a half of ridicule if that gets caught by some fan in the audience?
Quick side story to a moment that you are referring to there. The World Series Game 7 night where the Chicago Cubs are about ready to break the streak. I am on my honeymoon road trip with my wife, and we are driving into Austin, Texas. And we are pulling up to our Airbnb, and it's pretty late at night because we had a big drive into Austin, and the host was aware of it and everything. And we knock on the front door, opens up, he like kind of does a up down. I'm in Austin, Texas. I'm wearing a Cardinal hat because that's what I'm doing, and he gives me an up down. Quickly makes a few jokes because I find out that he is very recently a transplant from Chicago, and 10 feet from the front door is World Series Game 7 in about the 4th inning. And so this fucking Cubs fan gets to watch the Chicago Cubs win the World Series with a St. Louis Cardinal fan sitting right next to him in his living room.
I have two friends down here who are Cubs fans. I live with one of them. But I was at another one's house because of other reasons, and I caught the end of the game. And so I also had a similar situation, but I knew they were a Cubs fan going in. But by the end of that game 7, because the Cleveland team also had not really done a lot of winning, and they both looked like they were trying to lose and keep their reputation of losing up because they just kept fucking up into extra innings. So by the end of that game, I'm just like, one of you guys has to be relevant. Get over yourselves and win this fucking game, please.
I was rooting for Cleveland so hard. And not even just because I was anti-Cubs, which I was, but it was just like I wanted it to be Cleveland.
Again, I have the two friends that are Cubs fans, so for that reason, as well as just the fact that I've always felt like a bully hating the Cubs.
I just noticed your ring.
I always felt like a bully for hating the Cubs. And so I'm like, can y'all at least do something so I can have a reason to not like you? Because I get why y'all wouldn't like us. But can you please give me a reason to hate it? Because I remember my uncle, who's also hardcore Cardinals, he's like, no, you're supposed to hate the Cubs. I'm like, I get you, but I don't consider them relevant enough to hate. You gotta at least appreciate that. He's like, yeah, you're right. Okay. But yeah, I do remember that World Series. But no, getting into that point, so I decided that I would watch baseball. I decided around high school. Baseball for me would be a sport that I don't really pay attention to in the regular season. Usually it was call me in the postseason, and if the Cardinals are still in the postseason. That was baseball for me. I took the football route, and 20 teens fell more into paying attention to basketball as well. Mm-hmm. But 2011 Cardinals, I was back in St. Louis around that time. I went to a game that proved my philosophy correct with how I approach the baseball season and how much regular season games matter. They even mentioned it in here. There was a point where they were a bunch of games behind the Brewers in late August, early September. I went to a home game where I asked Ibn, who's been on the show, because I had the tickets with him. It was the last Cardinals game I've been to too, at Busch Stadium, and I was like, "How are we doing this year? By the way, we suck." Oh, yeah, we're behind the Brewers and so on and stuff, and we lost that day. This is late August, early September, and we went on to win the World Series that year. We were considered damn near, not literally, clearly, but damn near mathematically eliminated. Like, season's a wash at this point. We can't come back. And then we won the World Series anyway. And I'm like, and that's why there's too many games. If I can't know for sure whether or not we got a shot. Like 2 weeks before the fucking postseason. Nah, I'm good. But no, I like baseball. I like the Cardinals. Obviously, I watched that postseason. And as far as complete games is 6 and 7, which we'll get into. I watched those whole games when it happened. I was unaware that they made documentaries about them. And so I was looking forward watching this today because I was wondering just how much detail they would go into about. Was it just the games themselves? Is it about the season too? What is this? So, yeah, I was doing that, and then not to give anything away, it was an enlightening experience.
No, yeah. I think we can start getting into the standout moments of it. Like so the first about 16 minutes or so is just kind of covering what's going on throughout the season.
Yeah, I forgot we didn't have Wainwright that year.
Yeah, man, that happened in spring training. It was tough, and honestly, he's a little bit of an unsung hero in this film as well, because while everything was going on, a lot of people, like I can tell you as a live fan tracking day to day, that a lot of players were crediting Wayno for being like he called himself the number one cheerleader. He declared himself that, and like that's his role for the team. And during that spike in the middle of the season, and where things are looking low, and you're below 500, and you're up against that, and you're below that Milwaukee team, which was fucking stacked in 2011. They had Zach Greinke, they had Giovanni Gallardo, fucking Prince Fielder, Ryan Braun was destroying things. Cargo was fucking destroying at the time. Niger Morgan, like the fucking. They had a really good stacked team. So a lot of players were actively crediting Wayno as their energy source in that season, and I thought he was. I mean, rightfully so. This is an injured player who is not contributing literally at all, tangibly, to the season. So he's not really going to feature much in the documentary other than his injury. But
a line or two I remember him would have been nice.
Yeah, a little moment somewhere during the back 40 minutes where they're covering the World Series run. Because I just remember so many players actively talking about Wayno and his energy and like Game 6, that never give up. Like I have images of him pacing in the dugout, like giving a like, let's go boys, come on, like it ain't over kind of speeches all the time. So that was something that may have been a little bit missed in my opinion, but yeah, the losing Wayno was absolutely crushing this season.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was unaware of like how many injuries they had that year and everything, because due to the length of seasons, I just said I only really watch when the playoffs happen. It made it even crazier to learn that as I watched this. Made it even crazier, like what happened. Like damn.
And I think that's honestly the typical baseball fan, I would say, and even baseball itself would probably admit that. Like the typical baseball fan is going to check in and out around when they maybe have a chance to go attend a game, because them or their family member got some honor roll tickets, or like, you know, there was I remember Schnucks and Deerbergs when we were kids had like, you turn in a certain amount of bottle like can tops and you get a pair of tickets or something like that, or like buy Six Flags tickets and get Cardinal tickets,
Six Flags
kind of thing.
Oh god, just the nostalgia in the last paragraph. Deerbergs and Schnooks and all that shit.
Right.
Sorry, folks. I don't
all
live in St. Louis
Louis
at the
things.
moment, so a lot of nostalgia thrown in there. But yeah,
But yeah, so I think that is kind of the baseball fan, and then I'll see you in the playoffs because it's a long fucking season. Like,
yeah.
I feel like because I'm not watching every game. I'm checking out maybe about 50% of them, and then maybe about another 10% I have a good majority of it on the radio because I'm playing a video game or I'm driving or something like that. But like, I think when you're talking about somebody who's religiously watching or at least listening to every game of the season, talking about an extremely small percentage of the fan base.
Yeah, they definitely exist, but I can't see there being that many of them. Okay. Sorry, before we get to the series itself, I got one more thing I'm curious about. I know the gist of it. But as you guys can see, and you even pointed out, I have a ring on. It's a replica ring from the World Series 2011.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have a 2006 replica. I think it's in my office at work.
But I figured it was topical for the video to have the 2011 one on. Now,
Absolutely.
It's got, you know, the cool stuff. It's got the bird and the bat, you know, the logo, the STL that's on the hats. You can't see it that well. But on here, I can't make it out. But oh, there it is. This little critter here. It's a squirrel. You know, the rally squirrel. It also has all the years that we won. So,
yes, sir.
I remember the rally squirrel, and I remember it being a thing. Now, I was under the impression, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that it's a squirrel that at some point in the season got stuck inside the Busch Stadium and would randomly run out into various games, and then we would magically end up winning, and so it became a superstition. Yeah, the rally squirrel.
Literally just once.
Oh, it was once.
Just once. It popped out onto the field somewhere near the Cardinal dugout, ran down the first baseline a little ways, and then literally crossed directly over home plate, right in front of Skip Schumacher, who at the time was coming almost 5 days a week to my bread company to get a breakfast power sandwich.
Nice.
Not a big deal. You know, no big deal. Skip Schumacher, I'm probably the reason why we won the World Series, honestly.
There you go.
Supplying Skip Schumacher with breakfast power sandwiches.
Maybe.
Not to throw him on blast, his order.
It's not
even an order anymore. You can't even order it anymore. So,
damn.
Rest in peace, breakfast power sandwich. So it literally just runs right across home plate and then towards the away team's dugout and back into the and then gets wrangled somehow.
Okay.
And that was it. And it was the rally squirrel.
Yeah, that was all people talked about for like a while. That postseason was just the rally squirrel. But yeah, so much to the fact that it's on the rink.
They put it on the ring.
They put the rally squirrel on the ring, and I thought that was hilarious, and I wanted to at least mention that while I was on here. But yeah.
I believe Skip Schumacher's official Topps baseball card for that year was a picture of the squirrel jumping across home plate, and his big toe is in the background of the photo.
It's fantastic. But yeah, so I guess, yeah, like you said, we'll get to a standout moment. So I kind of picked a couple for the games. Like, first off, I have the 3-hit shutout, like, at the beginning of the World Series, kind of like, was it Carpenter sending a message, or was it someone else Someone pitched like a 3-hit shutout, I think, in game 1.
Yeah, well, that was uh uh there was Carpenter's big game against the Phillies in the lead up in the playoffs, where I believe it was something like that.
Okay, that might have been it. It might have been against the Phillies. I forgot to type the team.
Because Carpenter's first start in the World Series didn't go as great as he would like.
It was like, I remember now.
But yeah, so this the 4 months ending this season are such a crazy blur to me, because I was working at bread company, and we would have, and I would frequently have these like 6 to 3, 7 to 4 kind of shifts, and a bunch of us would be getting off in kind of unison, and then we would all end up congregating at one of the people that was getting off's house after work, and it just kind of slowly happened where we started watching the Cardinal games when we got back to this buddy's house. And it would be like maybe 4 people would come by from work, and then maybe every once in a while a couple of buddies of my friends would come by. He's now having people over at his house, kind of thing, every once in a while. But there was this like core group of 4 of us that started watching, and we kind of didn't miss a game during that climb up. And we would go to work, and then we would go to my buddies, and we would watch the game. And then we were watching the playoffs. Obviously, like it was this continual rise, and we got to keep winning. You got to, every time it was a loss, you're like, your odds get cut in half, and you're like, oh God, it's practically over. You declared the team dead a half a dozen times. And then they finally just squeak into the playoffs. So then it's a fucking gigantic deal. And now we're like, all right, so now we're watching the playoffs, and the playoffs are a big deal, and we're watching the playoffs. And I'm down there and I'm fucking eating my hat. And that Phillies game was insane, because you had 2 of maybe the best pitchers in the National League at that time, Roy Halladay and Chris Carpenter for us. And Roy Halladay on any given day normally is the better pitcher. They're both great. Halladay's greater. 99 times out of 100, almost everybody would pick Halladay to be to come out the better guy in that scenario. But not this night. Like, we scratched off 1 run in the first inning, and then it was a pitcher's duel from that night on. 0, 0, 0, 0. Just got getting thrown up onto the board. When Chris Carpenter made that final out, and they all mobbed him over the mound, and there's it is one of the I believe till my dying day, it will be one of the strongest visual images I have in my brain, is Chris Carpenter holding his arms out and screaming towards the sky as he's mobbed in 360. That before we even get to the World Series, that was, because that was also the Philadelphia Phillies were an insane team. They had, earlier in the season, they had a magazine cover for Sports Illustrated called The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, because they had what people believed to be 4 different starting aces in their rotation. 4 different guys who were on, if they were on any other team, would be the number 1 guy on that team. But they had 4 of them. And they were so good, they had a cover of Sports Illustrated. we went in and kicked their ass.
Yeah, because
and that
we
was
had Albert Pujols, Mr. Freeze. We had Alan Craig.
Nobody knew who the fuck David Freeze was. Nobody the fuck knew who Alan Craig was.
Definitely nobody knew who Alan Craig was. I barely remembered who Alan Craig was. I remember the name, like, yeah, and then I don't remember hearing that much about him, but I do remember the name, and it's like they mentioned he became known then.
Yeah, he burned. He burned white hot. He burned white hot and fast. He was so good. Oh my god. Me and my baseball buddies used to have jokes of just like, man, Alan Craig can fall out of bed and hit 348 for the season. He was just a dude who was made to hit baseballs, and he was so good. Yeah. But yeah, nobody knew who the fuck he was this year.
Yeah.
And we had old man Berkman, who did not have a good couple of years before he came to the Cardinals. We were not jumping for joy. It was it was kind of weird
hilarious now.
because he was on the Houston Astros, and the Houston Astros are now known for dominating the World Series for the American League. Weirdly, when we were all children, the Houston Astros were in the National League, specifically the National League Central, and we battled with
us.
We battled with them. They beat us a few times, Omari. They beat us a few times.
But they still ran from us at the end of the day to go to the AL.
They ran from
Pujols was too much for them, and so they left the National League. They're like, nah, we can't deal with that, man.
I don't know if that's how it went down, but that might be
That's
it.
what someone told me at the time, and I've gone with it since. Because I never liked the team to begin with. I had another name that sounds similar for them, but I didn't. I don't like the Astros, and when it came out that they cheated, I was like, oh yeah, sounds about right.
So Berkman was a main star of those Astros teams that were beating up on the Cardinals. A lot of people might know, but especially Pujols fans know about the famous highlight of him absolutely clobbering the snot out of a baseball from Brad Lidge, the closer of the Houston Astros, in a very important playoff game to take the lead and win that game. Well, a lot of people also don't talk about the fact that the very next night, Houston Astros whooped our ass and knocked us out of the playoffs, and our season ended.
There's a similar thing in fighting games. There's a guy, Justin Wong, who's known for being on a lot of highlights and stuff. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 won 7 Evos. There's an Evo clip of him having a really close comeback in one match where he was almost dead, and he killed 3 characters to win, and everyone's like, losing that shit. He lost that set. The highlight is that one game out of the set, and everyone talks about, but he actually lost that set, and it was for the championship that year. So yeah, it's exactly what you're talking about. Everyone will remember the moment, even if they don't remember what the moment led to.
Right. Yep.
Speaking of Albert Pujols and him hitting home runs, the next thing I had was the fucking game 2, I believe. 3-run homer with fucking slow-mo swag walk, followed by the 2-run homer, then the 1-run homer. It's just ding, ding, ding. Yeah, let's go, Albert. This was right before you started hating us, so you were still cool. Although I think he likes us again because I think he came back.
The legend has it that I believe it was game 3 because the first 2 games would have been in St. Louis. I think. The legend is that they showed up in Arlington at that stadium, and a few hours before the game starts, you do batting practice, and Albert Pujols comes out, and
he had not had a good series up to that point.
No, he had not, and he hadn't had a great. I mean, although we were doing our climb, he wasn't. Was it's a weird thing because a month after this, 2 months after this, we say goodbye to Albert Pujols.
Yeah.
For 11 years. And that's crazy that it happens just 2 short months away from here. But he was, the plantar fasciitis was hitting him really hard. He was having a lot of trouble hitting. He was not hitting. He was having a lot of trouble running and walking and standing.
Yeah.
He can always hit the baseball. And he was granted the ability to work through that stuff in LA when he could be a DH, when St. Louis was not granted that opportunity until just last year. And what happened? We went and signed Albert Pujols. So, like, yeah, that's he wasn't doing great, and he shows up in Arlington, and it's his turn to do BP. And the legend is that just jaws started dropping because the air's a little warmer. It's a different field than it is in St. Louis. Maybe
Different
it's a little
atmosphere.
smaller,
Yeah.
different atmosphere. A lot of different factors go into hitting. What they call the batter's eye, and that's just the background of the stadium that's behind the pitcher. If you think about it, that's what the hitter's looking at. That's the inside of all of that stuff is where he's trying to find the baseball that's coming at him. What does that area look like? All that kind of stuff factors in. So yeah, he just starts absolutely fucking clobbering baseballs, hitting them all over the place, hitting them to the roof, hitting them out the stadium, hitting them anywhere he wants to hit them, except for in the middle of the field, because they're all going into the bleachers. And he just carried that energy right into that game. And it felt like that was one of those. There's so many of those games, so many of the games in this playoff series, I was eating my hat. That was one of them where I was sitting in the chair just chuckling. Like, it was like, well, he's not gonna, yep, he did it. All right, he did it again. He did it again.
No, that was ridiculous. I remember.
But then we're down.
Yeah.
Then we start losing.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have to come back to St. Louis.
For Game 6. And
for the almighty Game 6.
When they first started talking about Game 6 in this documentary, I was about to be so mad. Because I'm like, wait. We go through these first 5 games down to the gritty detail. For breakfast this morning, the players ate bagels. Like, and you're gonna skip to the end of Game 6? But then it did like the 7 hours earlier. And okay. I was like, that's the game you decide? Because I remember, the Joe Buck line. We'll see you tomorrow night. Whatever. But I was like, you just skip into the tomorrow night, not the game leading up to that moment? And then it's like, 7 hours earlier. And they show like a conversation the boys were having earlier in the day that led to the later moments.
Yeah. What some have called one of the craziest games of all time. Because of the stakes of it being a win or go home World Series game. The first 4 innings were excruciating to watch live. Excruciating. Errors on both sides. They covered in the sloppy play. But man, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Fucking that tying double or triple, whatever it was, with Freeze, where it got them back in it. We're like, holy shit, we got a chance. The fucking way he slides into that base and just looking out, like, the Freeze gets together.
Another core visual memory in Bill's brain is the.
Yeah, I remembered that from it. I was like, yeah, I do remember that. That looked badass and everything. Just, yeah. David Freeze, hometown boy.
Yeah, man. Like, can you fucking imagine that? Like,
Even then, I was like, damn, even me and my don't watch baseball ass, everybody that grows up in a baseball town that likes their team, at least pictures at some point them on base, bottom of the ninth, 2 runs down, 2 people on the bases.
Yeah, man. It's literally
pitch,
what...
Full count, 3-2. Way to go home.
Crack! Yeah, man.
And then Berkman goes on in the fucking extra. That was Berkman, right? That was the game Berkman did. Yeah, goes
Big
on
city.
in the extra innings, and then we get the "we'll see you tomorrow night" moment. And it was was Berkman "we'll see you tomorrow night"?
No, Berkman's moment
again.
Berkman is Joe Buck. I believe the quote is, "They will not die."
They will not die.
And he sounds exhausted and emotional, because this is his hometown.
His team. That's what I'm saying.
He doesn't like for that to color his broadcast, because he's broadcasting for the national audience.
I feel like he was overcompensating for trying to sound neutral with the way he said things, and it came out as, when he gets some criticism from people I know about him being emotionless when it comes to commentary. I'm pretty sure with those he's trying to be neutral.
Joe Buck gets so much hate, man. I'm not one that's here for it, but I also have the benefit. I have the benefit of not seeing his football, which I know is what a lot of people give him the hate for.
Well, I also have the thing of St. Louis folks got to stick together, dude.
Yeah, man. Fuck that. Fuck yeah.
That's what I'm just saying. That's another reason why I'm like, that ain't that bad. Come on now. He's the son of the legend, Jack Buck.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, his "see you tomorrow night" call. That is a direct. Jack Buck has a Game 6 World Series walk-off home run. "We'll see you tomorrow night" call that is legendary. And so that is
call back to that.
That is Joe in the moment instantaneously deciding that he's going to do a callback to his dad and word for word quote him.
That is even better. I thought it was literally...
He does it a lot more somber.
Yeah, but I thought it was more of a, "and we'll see you," because he wasn't sure if it'd be a home run, because it could easily fall short next year. The so-and-so win, but it went in tomorrow night. We'll see you next year. The Rangers win.
I mean, it's indescribable.
It was so good. I was on the edge of my seat. Like I said, I watched this World Series when it happens. I'm wearing the goddamn replica ring. I knew what was going to happen, and I still was like, oh shit. Yeah!
It's the shit you write into a sports movie.
It is.
And every once in a while, once a decade, we get it in real life, where it's like, Jesus, you wouldn't have scripted this, because it would have just felt too like, somebody walks into the movie studio is gonna be like, oh come on, you got him coming back 3 different times. Also, they barely squeak into the playoffs with the lowest record, and they dominate the completely stacked, filled with aces team of starters. Like, what is this crap?
Good. Not good enough.
Like, it's unreal. And the feelings, I said in the opening about how, like, for me, one of my largest loves, other than it connecting me to my family and my past, is the emotion that it stirs in me. And I can't put into words what Game 6 did to me. Like, it was...
No, I remember.
It was one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced.
Same.
It's like my wedding day and game 6. I haven't had kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been blessed, unlike people from some cities. I've been blessed to at least have multiple occasions where my team, my hometown team, has won a championship, or the team I'm rooting for has won it. Best Show on Turf Rams, 2011 Cards, Bruins, not Bruins, Blues, beating the Bruins, because fuck Boston. That made it even better. That's the only reason that I was more motivated. The only reason that game, the Blues game, hit me more than, say, the game 6 and 7 of the 2011 World Series, despite me watching less hockey than I do baseball. Mm-hmm. Like, my first full game of hockey was game 7, Blues versus Bruins. But that game, even that, had me sitting still just with anticipation, because we were going to win, and it was going to be against the Boston team. Oh my God, I felt so good. But that game 6 also was just one of those things that really just, yeah. The way sports get you, when you get invested in something, that's what I love about it. It's like, once you get that invested in, as long as you have some reason to root for something, you pick a side. It's why when the Rams left St. Louis, I had to pick a new team. I couldn't just watch football as an outsider. I'm like, I need something, because I've been too attached to sports with that attachment, where I know if you're attached in some shape or fashion, the experience is so something only sports and competition can give you. So yeah, I feel you on that. I haven't been married or had kids or whatever, but game 6 definitely affected me, as well as game 7 and game 1, as in game 1 of 1. Now, I have also been unfortunate to see my teams lose in the finals of various sports as well. But usually to Boston. Fuck Boston. Yeah. Anyway. So, I guess another standout moment. Just kidding.
Well, I mean, yeah, we won the World Series. I mean, game 7 is honestly an afterthought. It's an afterthought after game 6.
I still like the way it went.
I love Yachty. The shot of Yachty in this documentary, going back to the locker room after game 6, and he said, and you hear him yell, "Let's play 9 fucking innings right now!"
I remember that.
He's ready to go.
I do remember that. Let's play 9 innings right now.
But yeah, game 7 happens, and we just rolled through it. Like the whole day it was bouncy. Like it was like, oh man, nothing, like, it's just like, we got it. Don't think about it too hard, but we got it. It's gonna happen. It's already happened. You can't have that game last night and then this not happen. Yeah. Like, it's gonna happen.
Losing a game like game 6 does something to you mentally. Like when you guys are struggling, like bop 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 bop, and you had the lead, and then they keep coming back. They will not.
And this was their second year.
This was their
second year in the World Series in a row.
Get good.
And they lost twice.
Damn. That sucks.
Both 2 years in a row, back to back to the World Series. Won neither, still haven't won.
Hey, at least it wasn't 4 times like the Bills.
Yes, this is true.
Like, that was, damn.
Couldn't even imagine.
Damn. That's all I got for that. Like, that would really suck. Yeah. So that was the baseball shit. Any other moments you want to talk about from them? The games?
Nothing directly. I mean, I think I got a page of a website I've never visited. I visit frequently, but never during this show. I have the 2011 World Series baseball reference page up. And we hit a lot of the big moments here. Yadier Molina, Albert Pujols, Skip Schumacher. Shout out to Ryan Theriot, who played shortstop for that year. Of course, David Freese at third base. Matt Holliday in left field. We had Lance Berkman in right field. My man John Jay from University of Miami. You got Nick Punto, Rafael Furcal, Alan Craig, Daniel Descalso.
Jason Mott, or what was his name? Something Mott.
Yeah, Jason Mott was our closer. You had shout out to Jaime Garcia, who in game 2 was only the second Mexican-born pitcher to start in a World Series game behind the legend Fernando Valenzuela. So Jaime Garcia, shout out to him. Another awesome dude, a lefty in our bullpen by the name of Arthur Rhodes. Arthur Rhodes had a 20-year major league career and never appeared in a World Series. And he was able to not only appear but be very successful. Nice. And I have a lot of crucial innings for the club, and then sailed off into the sunset.
That's awesome.
So
and also shout out to Tony La Russa.
And yeah, shout out to Tony. Shout out to Tony holding it all together.
Yeah, because that dude was like, for the majority of the time that I was paying attention to the Cardinals leading up to that, it was La Russa as our coach. Like, he was the Cardinals to me. So, and he retired after that. Or he didn't retire. He left the team after that season.
Yes, he did. Yeah. There was a lot of change. He retired. Albert left.
Mm-hmm. A couple of years later, Freese left.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I pay loose attention to the Cardinals like this season, but I'm not gonna worry because it's like week 3? We still have like 90 games. We could easily come back and make the postseason. Yeah. Hey, it's been about a decade? It's been 11 years or so since the last time we won. We're due another one. We're the Cardinals. We win like just about every decade. Yeah. I think the Cardinals are the only team I know that of mine where I can have the blind fake. We'll get them next year for, because I am generally a very pessimistic.
It's
fan.
Insane. It is insane as a Cardinals fan that I'm saying this in fucking May. And it just turned to May. I'm saying this, but we are almost already at the let's get them next year stage. It's insane. We have such a good offense. And it's not hitting right now. But you know what? What would you fucking expect when they think they have to score 9 runs a game in order to potentially win? Because we have such dog shit pitching. It is not anybody on the team's fault other than the dudes throwing the ball, but they're not. Nobody on our team was great. Like from moment one going into this season, every single person talking about the Cardinals were like, yeah, they got a great lineup, one of the best lineups in the league, but man, can it overcome their pitching? And we don't have it, and it is squarely on ownership and general managers for not seeing the very obvious writing on the wall for the last 2 years that their fans have been screaming about. That is, they have no pitching coming down the pipeline, and they refuse to pay for free agent pitching. And when you put those two things together, that means that you don't have any fucking pitching. Yeah. I wasn't going to talk about this season, Omari. This was about 2011.
No, we're good.
This is about 2011. You brought up this season.
We're good. We're good. Gonna have another one of these.
Someday.
Yeah, this year. Mark it. I said Roman was going to win on the show and spoke that into existence by accident, just as a joke. I'm saying the Cardinals are winning.
Worst start in Cardinal history.
Okay.
We have the worst record in the National League.
Okay. You know who's in the playoffs right now? The team that started the year 2-11 in the NBA, and they're in the playoffs right now. That's the Lakers. The Lakers, much like the Cardinals, are one of the second most successful franchises in their league. If they can do it, why not us? Exactly.
The Lakers only have to worry about being only their sport being separated into two divisions.
Okay.
We have 8.
And they had to do a play-in.
Currently,
they had to do the wild card thing.
Currently,
we'll have to wild card our way in too.
Currently, in our own division, 3 in our own division, the Milwaukee Brewers, the Chicago Cubs, and the Pittsburgh Pirates, all 3 have some of the best records in all of baseball.
All right. So
you are not going to the playoffs if even 2 of those teams are better than you. Especially,
luckily, 2 of those teams are the Cubs and the Pirates,
who are very good right now.
And
so are the Brewers. Cubs have won more recently than we have. Cubs have won more recently than we have.
Yeah, but has it been 108 years, Bill?
The Cubs have won more recently than we have.
But has it been 108 years? See, this is what I'm saying. Like, I may not hate the Cubs, but I don't necessarily. Also, how many more? All right. I only can see the Twitter popping up every day being like, we lost again, we lost again, we lost again. Hey, we won, we lost again. How many more games are left in the season?
Hold on. You're gonna make me do it. All right. St. Louis Cardinals are, as of today, after getting swept at home by the Los Angeles Angels, losing today 11-7. The St. Louis Cardinals are 10-22. So there have been 33 games of the 162 game season.
So there's 159 left. Oh, not 159 left. 129 or something.
Yeah, but your benchmark, you wanna look at like you have to at least get 90 wins.
Okay.
You have to at least get 90 wins.
So as long as we don't lose more than 30 times. But as long as we don't lose more than 30 times more, we're good. We got a 30-game cushion. That's enough time to trade somebody for some kind of pitcher that's at least decent. I'm telling you, man, it'll work out. And if it doesn't, we'll get them next year.
I mean, it will, and we will. But you know, it's just we go through droughts.
We're not the Cleveland team. We go through droughts, but we're not the Cleveland team.
From the Pittsburgh
Pirates who don't care about whose owners don't care about their team anymore and usually try to tank. That's why I said them. Yeah, the Cubs have won more recently, yes, but the Pirates have literally had their fans yet screaming "sell the team" for the past like 5 years.
From the time you and I were about 4 to 12, the team was dog shit. Almost never made the playoffs. It was terrible. A couple of the years we really by the time we were 12, the Cardinals really only had about 2 good seasons. So it can happen.
They go through droughts. We went through a drought after the 90s until fucking 2011. Sorry, something in my eye. I get it.
We won a World Series in 2006.
No, we did. We lost to the fucking Red Sox.
We lost to the Red Sox in 2004.
Oh, and then we won in 2006. See,
against the Detroit Tigers.
Every decade we get one. So, the 90s we got one.
We did not get one in the 90s.
I could have sworn we got one in the 90s. Hold on. You know what? I've got the ring with the championship years on it. Let me look. All right, you're right.
It's 11.
I know it's 11. But I thought that we won one in the 90s. Okay, we didn't. We won one in the 80s, didn't win one in the 90s. But we were still good.
And we went to two
90s.
Others in the 80s as well.
We were still good in the 90s, though. We were still
not really. No. most of our childhood, we were terrible.
But the Ozzy and McGuire and all that shit, they weren't good. They were like a contender?
McGuire was good, but McGuire never played in the playoffs as a St. Louis Cardinal. Ozzy was great. Ozzy was great in the 1980s. And that was it.
Today I learned.
I mean, he was great in the 90s as well, but the Cardinals weren't great then. We had Ozzy, we had Ray Langford, and we had Brian Jordan.
Yep.
And they were all really cool, but we never really had a complete team that was clicking.
All right. So
and then Joe Torre left managing us.
And we got La Russa.
Went to New York and proceeded to win 5 World Series in 6 years. Or like 5, 4 and 6, something like that.
But that just lends credence to my earlier statement that I did not pay that much attention to regular and postseasons when I was younger. I thought I hear about them all the time. All I hear is good things. We must be good. I could have sworn. That's why I was like, yeah, we clearly had to have won one some point in the 90s. We won one in 06, won one in 11, so there goes the 20 teens. Now we're in the 2020s. We'll win one sometime this decade. I'm saying it's this year.
I hope you're right. I'll be tuning in to find out no matter what.
I mean, second we get to the postseason, I'm like, all right, what are we doing? So we'll see.
Then we'll see you next year.
All I know is I was told while sitting in Busch Stadium, in my last time in Busch Stadium, that we got no chance this year. And I'm wearing a ring that said we did. Baseball. All right, so next week, back to movies. I'm suggesting something. And rather than go for your traditional classic, I'm going for a modern day movie that I've seen a couple of times at work or whatever. Red Notice. So we'll watch that next week. If you want to see some other stuff, from our first season of the show, because this is pretty much our second season, that's our second year at least, you can go ahead and check it out on the playlist and everything on our YouTube. You can also find me elsewhere on YouTube on the Whatever We Want podcast, the show I do with the aforementioned Super Jazz. Thank you. And yeah, we do that every week, every Wednesday. I also, hi, how you doing? I also have a Twitter and Twitch that's Giotavi, Giotavi.
Come on in, stop on by.
Thank you very much. Bill, you got anything else you want to say to the folks?
I got nothing I have to say to the folks.
Fair enough. Well, guys, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Adiosness.